Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to talk about Gervonta Tank Davis and his girlfriend's alleged claims that he assaulted her. Well, it turns out that it's not true. Turns out that there was an argument, but she admitted that she was equally at fault. In which case, the brunt of that 911 call was not true. So that being said, and I'm gonna go back to that. But that being said, because I was one of the ones who did make a video on it, and the reason why I made a video on it is because he did have a history of not being very nice to his girlfriend in the past. I mean, he literally yanked his girlfriend up in front of a crowd of people. He wasn't even shy about it. He didn't even go to the back room. He literally yanked her up. So when you see things like that and then you hear these calls, it's only natural. It's literally only natural. You know, if you don't have a history of something and then you do it, or if you don't have a history of something, then you're believed to have done it. Why would they believe you to do it if you don't have a history? But if you do have a history of, if for nothing else, being aggressive toward women, which he's shown that he can be aggressive toward women. Therefore, that's the reason for my video. But she was saying that they were seeking counseling. I think that's a good thing. I really do. And I hope they seek counseling collectively, and they also seek counseling individually. And I think that would help them. You know, I think there needs to be some self-accountability, not just as a couple. You know, this is how you should act as the man in the house, and this is how you should act as the woman in the house. I think they need individual counseling as well, because to look at such a relationship, you would say maybe that's a little toxic. Yeah, they are young, but it's a little toxic. And there are children involved. Now, with that being said, Gervonta Tank Davis still has a fight coming up. And I guess the overall question is, how is his mental in all this process? Yes, there's the relief that she came out and said what she said. However, you still have people who are under the belief that maybe it's not true for whatever reason. And not to mention, you know, he was already, it seemed to be a little fed up with boxing as is. And that didn't help the situation. Yes, there's clarity on her behalf now. But how is that going to, what is that going to do on his mental with this fight coming up? I would suggest maybe his coaches, his trainers, they would possibly just get him out of town, maybe take him fishing or something like that, something very therapeutic. Take him to see, you know, the river, the lake, whatever. You know, go see some animals, go ride a horse. Something, they're very therapeutic. Why not? Very therapeutic. And get his mind right. Yes, you're still going to be training, but get his mind right. He was arrested. He was arrested. He was defamed. He was arrested. He was embarrassed. And that's a lot on anybody. I don't care about your age or where you're from or whatever. Or that's a lot for anybody. And then to know that I still got to stand across the ring from this man. Yeah, so I think it would be best for him just to kind of get away. Not necessarily get away from her or break up with her or anything like that. Although I do think they need some space. But I think at best, he just needs to get away to do the rest of his training camp. I think that would be good for him. So that when he does get in the ring, he can be focused. He can be solidly locked in and zeroed in on his opponent. Because his opponent is nothing to play with. He shook up the world before, and I believe he could do it again if Gervonta Tank Davis isn't careful or if he is not on point. I do believe Gervonta Tank Davis is going to win. I don't see any reason why he would not win. But you never know. You never know. This is boxing. You know, every time I say you don't see any reason why so-and-so wouldn't win, I always think of Andy Ruiz. So you never know. You really never know. It could be anybody's night on any given night. And the last thing you need is to be thinking about your spouse and your problems. It is great that she stepped up. It's great that she stepped up in the time that she did, because I think that he still has time to mentally recover from this so he can focus on his fight. But I do think he needs time away. I think he needs time away. I think a little seclusion would not hurt him, but help him. And that's my thought on that. If, you know what, looking at the psychology of everything. Now, as an opponent, I would probably try to work something against him. I don't know, maybe, Hector would post something or something like that, and maybe just to rile Tank up, because if you can get him off the fight mentally, he's not going to be there the night of the fight. His body's going to be there, but he's not going to be there. And if you can just get him thinking about something else or contemplating something else, I think it would be in the best benefit of Hector. However, maybe he's a man of valor. This is boxing, and there's a whole lot of trash talk and psychology going on back and forth, and mind games, and free rent in other people's heads. I think now would be a great opportunity for said antics and tactics. But amazingly, and I guess I'm really not surprised, we haven't heard anything from Hector, and that's sportsmanship, and that's honorable, because there's a lot of other guys who would have taken full advantage of that, with no hesitation. They would have taken full advantage of that. They would have run Tank through the mud and got him all ticked off, and again, I don't know how he handles when he's really not focused in the fight, when he's focused on other things, if he's focused on his child, if he's focused on child support, if he's focused on maybe his child won't be living with him anymore. I know he's a daddy's girl, his girl is a daddy's girl, and I know like he loves his daughters to pieces. So if the situation happened where she removed his daughter from the home, that could really affect Tank, in how he operates. That could affect him. I know he loves that little girl to pieces. So who knows? There's so many factors and so many variables in something like this. And a lot of times it comes down to he say, she say. The only thing that really hurt Tank was that he had a history of it. He did have a history of being aggressive toward women. It's like if you look at a Floyd Mayweather, he has a history of being aggressive toward women. Oscar De La Hoya has a history of being aggressive toward women. Mike Tyson has a history of being aggressive toward women. It's not like there's anything out of the ordinary, So when you look at things like that and they pop up, you gotta ask yourself, if I'm even with the right person, I suppose. But that goes back to the counseling. I hope they truly do seek counseling, and I hope that they seek individual counseling as well. I think that's an even stronger proponent, because it's great to know who you are as a couple, but it's also not more important, but it's equally as important to know who you are in terms of self. Because once you know that, you know what you're bringing to the relationship. And if you know what you bring to the relationship, you definitely don't want to tamper with the relationship, because you have more weight in the relationship than you probably give yourself credit for. But that's my video. As always, please like, please share, please subscribe to the channel.